Welcome to Focus Washington, an exciting program today, a very special guest and a very important topic. With me is John Hope Bryant. You are founder of Operation Hope. You are vice chair of the President's Council on Financial Literacy, a topic that these days is increasingly important. What's it mean, financial literacy? I mean, everybody talks about it. What does it mean to you?
Well, typically it means a kid going to sleep if you offer a financial literacy course. I think that before this crisis, people were, if they were to be honest, wholly uninterested in it. And I think part of that's because the people who were advocating it didn't know how to make it relevant. We've been teaching financial literacy like it's a math class. And it's not a math class, because if it was, you'd take a math class. If it was about economics, just an economic equation, you wouldn't have not have a check casher across the street from a bank branch, and all the business going to the check casher. Obviously, it's cheaper to go to the bank branch, but money is personal. There's probably nothing more personal in your life, other than your family and the people you love, than your relationship with money. But we don't have a good relationship with our money, which is why you have, in this economic crisis, have people who are in foreclosure never call their lender. They're ashamed to admit that they don't get it. So I think there's a language to money, and my job, I think a lot about Dr. King. My hero is Andrew Young. My mentor was Dr. King's right arm, and Dr. King was not the first civil rights leader, but he was the first person to be able to frame the issue in a way that was relevant to mainstream America, and was able to captivate the imagination of people and get them to understand why it was in their enlightened self-interest. I think that making financial literacy a business case in the backdrop of this economic crisis, of showing people you cannot have a $14 trillion economy, 70% driven by U.S. consumers, and not have people who are financially illiterate. They become deer caught between economic headlights and stop spending and stop being confident about their lives. And so that's the new push. It's making it relevant to America and around the world.
Isn't it the traditional problem with financial literacy? I mean, you were kind of referring to it as, you can put it out there, but how do you get someone to actually do it, to decide that it's important to them? Does the current environment, I mean, does this give a new impetus to it? Is this going to change things that much?
Well, I call it a teachable moment, and Secretary Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, said, no, it's not a teachable moment, it's a searing moment. In other words, after the Great Depression, we all know people who grew up after the Great Depression who it seared in their consciousness a passion for saving and for thrift and for certain behaviors. And not everything, by the way, after the Depression was bad, and there are a lot of good things came out of the Great Depression: the SEC, Social Security Administration, modern social safety net, rainbows after storms.
Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve. So we're going to see some good things coming out of this crisis as well. One of the things that has come out of this crisis already is a relevancy of this issue of financial literacy. Everybody knows somebody in trouble who bought too much house, who asked what was the payment, not what was the interest rate. I mean, the reality is nobody wakes up in the morning and says, ooh, I want a mortgage. I want one of those nice red high interest rate mortgages with points. People say, I want to be a homeowner, right? I mean, nobody wants a car loan. They want a cool or an efficient automobile. Most people don't want an education unless you're an academic. They want what education can get them. Is aspirational. So when you have kids dropping out of high school, between 30% and 50%, 30% of all kids drop out of high school in America, 50% of urban kids, these kids are saying, education is not relevant to my future. The way you make it relevant is to show kids how to succeed and how to do well legally. That's financial literacy, free enterprise and capitalism, ownership, opportunity, and entrepreneurship. So it's tying that to the dream, tying it to aspirations. It's what America is all about, is the power of the idea. So yeah, I think that it has to be framed in the context of people either living their dreams or getting out of the trouble that they're in. And people are in a lot of trouble right now, and they're looking to find a rainbow after the storm for their dreams.
All right, so is that what this summit meeting you're doing is about? It's June 17th, it's here in Washington.
Right.
You've got some of the best speakers I've ever heard. No one gets Ben Bernanke without a lot of trouble, and apparently this is the second time he's willing to speak with you.
Yeah.
Sheila Bair, chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, one of the most important policymakers. Number one, how did you get him? And number two, what are you hoping to accomplish with this very exciting program?
Well, we have Andrew Young, civil rights icon, and we've got 46 speakers already from 6 different continents. So the World Bank, the IMF, we have some of the largest corporations in the world who are joining us. Swiss Post, which is the second largest employer in Switzerland, have $50 billion in cash they're sitting on. They bank everybody in Switzerland. Which is an interesting model. You bank through the post office. I think universal banking is something that we should be trying to do here in America. Yeah, more people don't have a bank account today than have the right to vote in 59.
Well, that's why payday advance and folks and everything come about, right?
That's right, and I think we can put a lot of bad people out of business, not through regulation, but frankly through market forces and competition by giving everybody a bank account, by making financial literacy and a bank account a civil rights issue and a civil rights issue. I think the Chairman Bernanke likes this approach because it's aspirationally relevant, because it's practical, okay, and because it's at scale. So we're talking about, this is not, you know, isn't that sweet financial literacy once a month, or isn't that sweet financial literacy day once a year. All that's good. We're talking about fusing it into mortgages, fusing it into credit cards, fusing it into auto loans, fusing it into student loans. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who will be there, has a bill, H.R. 1325, that is inspired by the work of the President's Council and Operation Hope to require any person getting a guaranteed student loan to get 4 hours of financial literacy. And any college or university getting federal funds to require a course in financial literacy. Number one reason that black and brown kids drop out of college, it's not academics, it's money. And the second group of bankruptcy filers in this country are college students. So this is a major societal issue. Number one cause of divorce in America is money. And so this is sort of the elephant that's in the living room. We've never really dealt with it. This is a global summit to bring these issues together, to make it a business case. I think Bernanke sees it as an opportunity to turn the corner on the conversation of this economy, not just talking about the problem, but where do we go from here? And let's face it, there is no mortgage police. There is no auto loan police. Nobody's going to come to your house and save you from financial predators trying to take advantage of you, or save you from the bad choices you make out of good intentions for your family. You've got to do that. And so this is a broad-based empowerment tool that we're going to spread far and wide as a fundamental tool to make sure this crisis never happens again.
All right, I'm going to ask you, we've got time for one more question. It's 5 years from now. The summit has produced great results. What are those results? Tell me the world as you see it.
I see an agreement with the Financial Services Roundtable, 100 of the largest financial institutions in this country. Steve Bartlett signing it with me, that frames a new industry standard to fuse financial literacy into human resources. If you make less than $70,000 a year, you are struggling to make ends meet. I don't care whether you're white, black, red, brown, or yellow, you want some more green, and you're stressed out at the job over money. You're not focusing on the job. We got to get financial literacy into the HR departments. I see financial literacy fused into a broad range of mainstream banking products. I see financial literacy fueling volunteerism and having 25,000 bankers going out into communities to show their customers they actually care. I see reform in credit unions. I see reform in credit cards that fuses this issue. I see us on every college campus making sure every freshman has a course in financial literacy before they get a course in credit card debt. I see us making free enterprise and capitalism finally relevant to the poor. This cannot be a win-lose situation. We talked earlier about transparency. The lack of transparency is never good, not in the long term. It's only good for people who are greed-based and short-term based. Transparency and empowering people with information is good for everybody, because you have customers who can not just pay once, but who can pay over the long haul and contribute to this great American experience. I
would think the quality of services and goods sold, the quality of profits has all got to go up because of this.
Everybody wins, you know. But when you treat a relationship, a client like a transaction, and not as a relationship, you win the battle and you lose the war. You win, but you ultimately lose. I'm talking about win-win. I'm talking about all boats rising and not just yachts. I see this as a transformational issue for America, that America got the world into this mess. But America can also help to lead the world out of this mess by being the first country that frames this issue, this new civil rights issue, a civil rights issue of empowering the least of these God's children with the opportunity to help themselves with a hand up and not just a hand out. The Obama administration has been very supportive of this. I think they'll be there in full strength. The fiscal community, the financial community, I think will find that this is a way to get their reputation back on solid ground. And this is a way for the middle class and the poor to have dignity in their own lives.
I kind of think the business community would love it. I wish we had more time. This is extremely exciting. Good luck. It's June 17th, Washington, D.C.
In Anacostia.
In Anacostia, which is
at the Arc.
Which is one of the faster rising neighborhoods.
It's the coolest place in town.
So, John Hope Bryant, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
And that's another episode. Good night.